I still remember the exact words that made my hands start shaking. The bank manager didn't even say hello. He just said, "Come here right now. Your son was just here asking questions about your safe deposit box." My heart dropped so fast I could barely breathe. Before I tell you what happened next, if stories about real family betrayal mean something to you, I'd love for you to subscribe to Family Betrayal. And one more thing, the faces, photos, and scenes you see are only there to help tell the story. They aren't the real people involved. I wish they were, because maybe then this nightmare would have belonged to someone else. I didn't call my wife. I didn't call my son. I jumped into my truck and drove straight to the bank. Every red light felt like torture. My son, Ethan, was 26. I trusted him with everything. He had helped me move furniture, fix my roof, and sit beside me at my wife's chemotherapy appointments. I never imagined I'd be racing to a bank because of him. The manager met me before I even reached his office. His face was pale. He quietly closed the door and asked, "Before I show you something, has anyone else been authorized to access your safe?" I immediately answered no. He turned his computer screen toward me and played the security footage. There was my son, calm, smiling. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't confused. He confidently leaned over the counter, asking the employee what documents would be needed if his father became unable to manage his own finances. Then he casually asked where my safe deposit box was located and whether family members could gain access after a medical emergency. I felt cold all over. The manager paused the video and looked directly at me. Something about the way he asked those questions didn't feel right. At that moment, I didn't know whether to defend my own son, or start questioning everything I'd believed about him. And what I discovered next was far worse than a simple visit to the bank. I left the bank trying to convince myself there had to be a reasonable explanation. Maybe Ethan was planning something for me. Maybe he was asking because he thought I was getting older. I kept repeating those lies in my head because the truth was too painful to even consider. Instead of driving home, I parked across the street from my own house. About 20 minutes later, Ethan pulled into the driveway. He wasn't alone. A man I'd never seen before got out of the passenger seat carrying a briefcase. They walked inside like they had done it before. My stomach tightened. I quietly walked to the back of the house and looked through the kitchen window. Papers were spread across the dining table. My wife looked uncomfortable, but Ethan kept pointing at different pages while the stranger explained something. I couldn't hear every word, but I clearly heard Ethan say, "Dad doesn't need to know yet." Those 6 words hit harder than anything I'd ever heard. I stepped inside without making a sound. The room froze the second they saw me. The stranger quickly gathered his papers. Ethan forced a smile that didn't fool me for a second. "Dad, we were just talking." I looked at the documents before anyone could hide them. Across the top was a title that made my chest tighten, "Durable Financial Power of Attorney." I slowly looked at my son. "Why are you trying to get control of my finances?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked at the stranger, who quietly picked up his briefcase and rushed out the front door without saying goodbye. Now it was just us. Ethan claimed he was only planning ahead. He said he wanted to protect me if something ever happened. It sounded almost believable, until I remembered the security footage. Then I asked him the one question he wasn't expecting. If this was really for my protection, why did you tell them not to tell me? His face changed. For the first time that day, my son had no answer. Have you ever caught someone in a lie so obvious that the silence told you everything? That's exactly how that moment felt. That night I couldn't sleep. Instead, I opened the file cabinet in my home office to check my financial records. At first everything looked normal, until I noticed several folders weren't where I always kept them. Someone had been searching through my private papers. I wasn't sure who. But by sunrise, I was determined to find out, even if it destroyed what was left of my family. The next morning, I didn't confront anyone. I acted like everything was normal. I made coffee, wished my wife a good day, and even told Ethan to have a safe drive to work. Inside, though, I was falling apart. I needed facts, not guesses. I called my attorney and explained everything. He told me not to accuse anyone until we knew exactly what was happening. Then he gave me one piece of advice that changed everything. Move your important documents today. Don't tell anyone. That afternoon, I returned to the bank with him. We opened my safe deposit box together. The cash was still there. The family jewelry was untouched. My late father's military medals were exactly where I'd left them. But one envelope was missing. It contained the original deed to a piece of land my father had left me years earlier. It wasn't worth millions, but it had become valuable after a new development project was announced nearby. Only a handful of people even knew that land existed. My attorney looked at me and quietly said, "Whoever took this knew exactly what they were looking for." I felt sick. When I got home, I searched through Ethan's old desk in the garage. I wasn't proud of it, but I needed answers. Hidden beneath a stack of notebooks was a folder with copies of my financial statements, property tax records, and handwritten notes listing the estimated value of nearly everything I owned. At the bottom was a business card. It belonged to the same man I'd seen sitting at my dining room table. I called the number from another phone. The man answered, thinking I was Ethan. He said, "Good news. Once your father signs those papers, the property transfer can move forward without any delays." My heart stopped. I hung up before he realized who I was. That evening, I asked Ethan to come over alone. He walked in looking confident, but the second I placed the business card and the copied documents on the table, the color drained from his face. He whispered, "Dad, I can explain." I looked him straight in the eyes. "No," I said quietly. "Tonight, you're finally going to tell me the truth." He lowered his head, took a deep breath, and admitted something I never imagined I'd hear from my own son. But his confession wasn't the biggest betrayal. The person who had been pushing him from the very beginning was someone I had trusted even more than him.